So our friends, we all have friends from different cultures, right? Not all of us are the same. We're all from different regions of the United States. Sorry, I'm about to sneeze, so when I do, I apologize in advance. We all grew up speaking different languages in the home. We grew up with different religions. So those could all be considered, to an extent, cultural differences. So think of your friends. Which kinds of cultural differences do you have? And I'll start off with, because I have lots of good examples, because I have lots of friends from around the world. So my best friend is from the Czech Republic. I use him in a lot of my examples because I've known him for almost a decade. So we have a lot of experience together in intercultural mishaps. So Czech Republic and the US, to an extent, are pretty similar. Americans, we very much wear our hearts on our sleeves, so to say. We Americans tend to be very emotional. Like, we have no problem really telling our friends, like, I love you, stuff like that, right? Most of us probably tell our friends that on a relatively frequent basis. You know, we don't have a big issue telling our family we love them, right? But that's not really a thing in the Czech Republic. They are much more conservative with their emotions. You know, in the 8 years I have known my best friend, I have never heard him even say the word love to anyone, not even to his mom. Like, not even in his native language have I heard him say the word. Just because they express their emotions differently. So that would be one of the cultural differences, I would say, between me and one of my friends. Like, I have no problem telling him that I love him, but I've never even heard him tell his mom that he cares about her in any way, shape, or form.
So what does he say when you say you love him? Thanks.
I love how everyone just is like, thanks, yeah. He'll just kind of smile, like, you know how boys do, and they're just like, oh yeah, I know, everybody loves me. You're the only guy, like, physically here in class today, so you might get ganged up on by some of the girls. But yeah, so, or just like, you know, a positive, like, little smiley face or whatever. So, but it's one of those things where, you know, he shows it differently, that he cares about people rather than saying it out loud. So, and the same is like on the subways and stuff in the Czech Republic. People aren't very physically affectionate. So here in the US, you'll see people holding hands and walking down the street and stuff. You don't really see that. At least there. Like, there's definitely places in Europe where they are very touchy, but in the Czech Republic, you don't really see a lot of physical affection between friends or between spouses or anything out in public. But here in America, you'll see, like, couples kissing and stuff. So it's just generally more emotionally reserved in that way. So, any cool examples from you guys or anyone on Zoom?
I'm kind of the opposite of, like, that story, because I grew up in I went to high school in Mexico, right? And like, their culture is very like loving and very just like want to show you that they care all the time. And so I just like naturally grew up. So like, it's just so natural to me to just like tell someone like I love you, or like anything like that, like right after I meet them. Like, people I don't even know, I'm like, love you, and they're like, love you too. Like, that's just how it is. I don't know. They're just like very, very like affectionate and like touchy and like love to give hugs, and like when they see you, like, you go up to them. I don't know what the word is in English, but you like when you say hello, you touch your cheeks together and make a kissing noise with your mouth. I'm like, it's just, I don't know, that's like their culture.
But if you came up and tried to do that to, you know, probably anyone in here who's like from the US, they'd probably be like, you know, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Like, when when I first started college, there was a guy from Argentina. First time he met me, like never met this guy in my life, came up, gave me a hug, kissed me on the cheek, and I'm just like, awkward. Thank you. But, you know, it's just a cultural difference, and, you know, it's one of those things. Like, it's not bad, it's not good. It's just different, and it can be very unsettling to people, especially if you're not used to it. So. Amy, you said you had a coworker from Kenya, I think in your...
Yeah, I do. You know, we've talked a little when we were in Florida about different things, how like religion and a few things they were, I know, a lot more religious, and the things, you know, he talked a little bit about that. Or, you know, I want to talk to him a lot more. I know, like with the deal with COVID, I know he said they handled it way differently from the very beginning, that they didn't they totally closed off everything. They couldn't go anywhere. They, you know, they blocked off his, you know, the total country. So I know that was a big thing. But yeah, just kind of little things like that, a little more structured, I think is what I want to say. But I want to talk to him a lot more. I haven't.
And I think people's reactions to COVID could be a good example of like cultural differences between like people that you know or friends that you have, because America, we're a very individualistic culture. So we are very much like, you know, I'm my own person, like you can't tell me what to do. That's the way it tends to be. But countries over in Asia, parts of Africa tend to be more collectivist. So work as a collective to get things done. Both have their positives and negatives. But in countries that are more collectivist, people tend to take more group responsibility and be able to totally lock down and shut everything down. And you're not going to have as many people like going out and, you know, breaking the rules that have been set up for the good of the group. Same with like in China. Like in China, I think they built like their field hospital or whatever in like 2 or 3 days, like a legitimate hospital. They built a building in like less than a week. That we could never do that here in the US just because of the cultural differences we have. Like we could not organize, you know, 5,000 people to say, hey, you guys are working to get this done to help your town. We could do it. It was just, we couldn't do it in a week. So Melissa said Southern US addresses most adults as ma'am and sir. That's a big one too. So how do we address people? So if you're from the South, you tend to use ma'am and sir. The younger generations, they might not even address you, that they just might say, hey, I need to talk to you. Or just say, yeah, rather than, you know, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, no, sir, no, ma'am. So not saying either way is right. It's just a difference. Any other thoughts from that one? Just wanted to get a couple examples from people since we mentioned it on Friday, but didn't really talk about it. So part of our second reading, so just make sure you guys know where to find those modules, readings. Please read your chapters before you come to class, week 1, day 1, week 1, day 2. So this was our reading. Well, we should have had both readings done, but first week, I get it. So this reading was on principles and processes of communication. So what is communication, how it can meet various needs, the communication process, and then how context affects communication. So I like that little graphic, that's fun, because the French word poisson is fish, but then it's written, it looks like poison in English. So you see that on the menu and you're like, I don't think I want poison, but it's poisson, it's fish. So where is it? Okay, there we go. So communication helps us meet our needs. They can be physical needs. So If you are hungry, you meet that physical need by asking for food or seeing if a friend wants to go to lunch with you or ordering your hot chocolate at Starbucks or whatever. You have your instrumental needs, so your day-to-day life needs. So if you need to borrow a pencil from one of your classmates, or you need a favor from a friend, those could be some of your day-to-day instrumental needs. You have relational needs, so those are our bonds and our relationships. So we have a need to belong. We have a need to interact with people and be part of something, whether that be a blood family, a team, friends, a school, something. We have a need to belong, and communication helps us meet those by being able to talk to people and interact with them. Identity. So we have the need to present ourselves in a certain way. So right now, David, you are representing Eastern Arizona baseball, right? So you are showing part of your identity through the shirt that you are wearing. And you want to be perceived in a certain way based on that. You want to be perceived as athletic or, as part of a team. Some of these things you might not think of consciously, but they're still things that they're showing to other people. So, but we also need to be thought of as like funny or smart or whatever things that we value. So we try to show those to other people. So can you think of an example of communication that you have done for each of these 4 needs today? So I will try to think of ones first so that you can kind of get an example. Physical needs. So how have I communicated about a physical need today? I live alone, so I don't have to ask anybody about food or anything, but I asked my trainer at the gym if I could switch up my macros so that I could eat more fat and less carbs. So I communicated about, it's like, no, I'm too hungry because you give me too many carbs, so let me switch it. Instrumental needs, some things to get done in day-to-day life. I talked to Shannon upstairs in the comm office about some paperwork that I had to do. So talked to her, got it done, put it on to the next person. But without talking to her, I wouldn't have been able to get that day-to-day, just general bureaucracy thing done. Relational needs. Before this class, I went up and I was in Nan Pennington's office. We were just kind of chatting. So maintaining that relationship, that friendship, by just going up and spending time and telling jokes that she should, for Halloween this coming year, be Batman instead of Batman. She thought it was funny, at least. And then Travis Cat should be as Catwoman. So then they can all just be like superheroes and stuff down that hall. And you have Batman and Catwoman, and then you just gotta find the rest, and then it'd be fine. Chris Matthews could be like a buff Kris Kringle, like a buff Santa Claus. Like, it'd be great. And then identity needs. I wore my Kansas City Chiefs shirt today. So I'm communicating that I am, Kansan, or at least I support the Kansas City Chiefs football team. So can you guys think of examples of these that you have used so far today, or if not today, maybe in the past week or so? And you guys can type them out, or you can speak up.
For physical needs, we look at a lot of baseball stuff, so I kind of had to adjust my diet, up my calories a little bit more since we're active. So it's kind of taking that into account.
Yeah. Ooh, workouts, adjusting calories because prepping for baseball season. So communicating with, your other teammates or whatever and saying, hey, maybe you need to think about doing this too if you're feeling super tired after practice.
I went shopping with my mom. She was only going to get 1 avocado, and I told her she should get 3 like ham avocados. And so it's like an avocado.
convincing mom to buy a couple extra avocados so you could have avocado toast. Millennials. Talking with your wife about what to eat for breakfast. So, like, what are you guys gonna cook for each other? Ooh, steak for dinner. I want to go to your house for dinner tonight. And a lot of these will fall into multiple categories. So talking with your wife about breakfast, you could be helping maintain your relationship by eating together as well, while fulfilling your physical need of like, oh, I just woke up, I'm hungry. So. Anyone think of relational or identity needs or instrumental needs? Ramon, man, I had oatmeal this morning too, nice. Photoshop teacher asked for to submit. D&D group on Discord. Memes. Yep, okay. Asserting dominance is DM. I feel you right there, Ramon. So asking teachers for help, texting significant others, texting friends, keeping in contact, asking your roommate if she thought your outfit was cute. You know, that reaffirmation of like, yes, I look okay today. I am okay to be seen in public. No, I feel like the urge to like pull my hair back and like do something with it. I don't have any roommates to ask if I look cute. So talking to others at dance classes. So every communication action you do fulfills some form of need. It might fill multiple needs at the same time, but you have to communicate to fill these needs. Yeah, working out every morning before school, trying to figure out the logistics of that. So. Okay, so we're going to move on to this next one, unless anyone else has anything to say for that. Yeah, so too stressed, so relational, instrumental. So they came to visit you instead. So what are some examples of communication that may not be appropriate in all contexts or all cultures? So I'll go back to my example of my best friend. So last year we were in Italy in the summer and the Czech Republic in the winter. So linking arms or holding hands in Italy, definitely more appropriate. The Italians tend to be more touchy. In the Czech Republic, probably not an appropriate context for that, just because culturally they are a lot less physically affectionate.
I have a friend who's from mainland China, and she escalates her voice a lot more than I do, where it sounds like she's yelling. And so sometimes I'll think she's like yelling at me, when in reality she's just excited. And like, whereas here, if we were to like get us animated and shoot it, we were yelling at them.
So volume is a huge one. So Americans, obviously there's 320 million of us, so we are very different. But as a whole, I think we tend to have a relatively level volume, but there are definitely some cultures like contact cultures. They tend to get really close and they talk really, really loud. And China is more of a contact culture. The Middle East is a contact culture. So the people will stand really, really close and then talk loud. And you're like, hey, thank you. You are in my bubble. But yeah, that might not be appropriate. Like if you're trying to have a secret conversation or whatever, and she's getting excited and starts yelling out these things, and you're just like,
It looks more aggressive than what it actually is, but it's very, shows a lot of emotion, with the facial expression. So I've had people tell me, and my best friends, that you look very violent when you're fighting, like it looks like you're getting aggressive, but that's just us talking. So some people get it confused and they feel like, okay, what's wrong?
Yeah, it seems more like in sign language, it seems like you're behaving aggressively. And it's like, no, that's just the way that we talk. And so like an example that would be like, everyone's like, oh, well, Russian and German, they always sound angry all the time. It's like, no, that's just the way that they talk. It might sound angry or might look violent to some people, but that's part of the culture. That's how it's spoken or that's how it's signed.
I think like every language is different like that because when I like my friends have heard me speak English and then I'll speak in Spanish, they'll tell me that my voice is really difficult because that like when I'm speaking Spanish, I'm like I sometimes I'm like fighting but my voice is almost like sweeter because like Mexico like they just have a very language, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I think something that makes like your voice sound very different.
That's cool. So maybe voicing sound different. Ramon says, when you're just chatting with your friends or whatever, you kind of lose your political correctness and you're just roasting your friends. And that might not be appropriate if you're around other friends who might not be used to that, or if you're in class or you're at a restaurant or something and people are just like overhearing and they're like, what are these people saying to each other? Like, or if like you go to a party on the weekend, you're not going to tell the same story to your grandma as you do your best friend most of the time, unless your grandma's real cool, right? So, any closing thoughts on that one? Okay. So, karaoke Wednesday. Oh yeah, those can always get wild. So, what does how you present yourself and your artifacts, and I'll explain what artifacts are, tell others about your cultural self and your individual self? So an artifact is anything that you wear or have that can convey a meaning. So tattoos, if you have tattoos, those are artifacts. If you wear jewelry, the clothes you wear, those are considered artifacts. So if you wear a wedding ring, that is an artifact that is saying that you are married, you are taken, you are not going to be going out on dates with people other than your significant other. Most of the time, we assume. Did you laugh at that? I mean, I can't judge what people do, so as long as everyone's in agreement, y'all can do whatever. I don't care. You're adults. Or if you have tattoos, like personally, I have 3 tattoos. So I have 3 different artifacts that convey 3 different things about me. Javen's wearing his EA baseball shirt. That's an artifact that conveys something about him. So yeah, expensive jewelry, name brand clothing, or it can mean we are very smart shoppers too. Yeah, tattoo of roses signifying a family member.
I wear like a crystal around my neck every day. I tell people that I'm spiritual in that way. Not kind of spirituality and stuff.
Crystals. Weren't you the one that wrote you were like, well, hippie, I guess. I think I know because I had your class too. But ooh, hippies. Your CTR ring. So I know a lot of people have those here. But the way if you dye your hair in a certain way or cut it in a certain way, that could be considered like how you do your makeup. Like Angela and I know you're always like super put together. I'm like you always have your nails done because I think you mentioned that in the other class. Yeah, that's one of your artifacts. You always have your nails done. And that tells something about you. Cancer ribbons, roses, flower tattoos. Other thoughts? I don't think we've heard from like this side of the room today yet. I mean, anything can pretty much be an artifact as long as it tells something about you. So maybe how you dress does, if you dress down to be comfy. You know, if you always have your hair done, unlike me, like I would just like more and more self-conscious about having my hair done today. That you like to be put together, you know, you like to be perceived in a certain way. So. But Ramon's just always funny. I think I've seen you in jeans before, Ramon. Honestly though, leg prisons. You need to invest in a kilt, Ramon.
I would love to normalize kilts.
I will give you 5 points extra credit if you come to class in a kilt.
I'll ask my Scottish friend if that's culturally acceptable, and I'll do it.
I have a kilt, so I mean, what else? We'll do it. Yeah, it's like we gotta wear the kilts on the same day. We gotta be matching, Ramon. Come on. What was I thinking about? But yeah, if you wear specific cultural clothing, that tells something about you. So, what's up?
So like, would our guys be like when my family goes together and stuff, like when we see my kids together on the ranch, we all have these jackets that we always wear, and they have like our family brand and like our company and stuff like that.
Yes, definitely. So it identifies you as part of insert family group here. Sports teams jerseys, if you have that. His Atlanta hat for Ramon, Nintendo t-shirts, any kind of graphic t-shirt, any branding, if you have an Apple Watch on, or if you have a GPS or a Garmin watch or a Fitbit. So the stickers you put on your water bottle, heck, if you even carry a water bottle. So. But they can tell people a lot about you as an individual and as a cultural being. Because, you know, the only people who wear CTR rings are people who are LDS. So if you are not part of that culture, you are not probably going to be wearing a CTR ring. If you're not affiliated with the Eastern Arizona baseball team in some way, doesn't mean you have to be a player. But if you're not affiliated with EA, you're probably not going to be wearing an EA baseball t-shirt. If you don't like Apple products, you're probably not going to be wearing an Apple Watch. So any thoughts wrapping up that? Any questions, comments, or concerns? No thoughts. Dangerous. Oh well. Could be worse. Could have too many thoughts and we'd run out of time and we'd actually take the entire 50 minutes for class. Oh, I'm glad someone finds humor in my dad's sense of humor. I appreciate it. Thank you. Oh. Yeah. So, do I want to talk about comm models? Nah, you guys will read about it. So, okay. So, please remember that we have this week 1 discussion coming up as well. So, I know some people, 2 people have posted in that, but a lot of this stuff is things that we talked about on Friday or like today. So on Friday, we talked about relativism versus universalism. Do you consider yourself more of which one and why? Has there ever been a time where you guys have broken a social norm or made a faux pas? We talked about that briefly. Elizabeth, there is no, or is there a word count? Yeah, there is. For the original posting, there is not a word count just long enough to answer it appropriately. So most of these can get answered in like 2 sentences. So, but you can also follow this example and do short paragraphs as well. Up to you guys. Please make sure that before next week, you guys do the readings for week 2. So under modules, week 2 readings, and then I will have the videos posted for week 1. One of them is already in there from Friday. So preferably you should have already had that read since we're now in week 2. Yeah, but yeah, have it read by Wednesday, and then we'll go ahead and get started on wrapping up the first week, because the first week's always kind of weird because syllabus and stuff. So we might be a little bit off on the weeks, but it's not going to be a huge deal. So Wednesday, I will probably do chapter 2 PowerPoint from this, and you guys will have the other readings from week 2. But we'll talk about building blocks and barriers to calm. Get started on that. We will do this little iceberg activity, which if you're on Zoom for that, then you'll just have to like draw it on your own, draw it. And then we will discuss. And what I mean by respond is, so I would go here if I'm reading Ramon's, and I would respond to his and say, okay, well, you know, globalization, you know, that's cool how it's impacted your life, blah, 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 blah. You know, I find myself more of a universalist or a relativist. But da-da-da-da-da-da. So, or I like how your video showed this thing. You know, it kind of relates to this other thing. So yeah, at every moment in Rush Hour movies, which is basically accurate. So please let me take attendance before you guys skedaddle, but once I read your name, then you are free to go, just because I want to make sure that you are all here and I don't lose anybody. Oop, probably don't want to show you guys that. Okay, Javen is here. Boom. Amelia is here. Ramon is here. Paul.
Here.
Awesome. Marianne, or so